Hey everybody, welcome to Law and Society. Today I'm going to talk to you about two unrelated topics, Bagram and Tom Homan. So please like, share, and subscribe, and let's get started. I'll read you an excerpt from the MSNBC reporting and then give you a little bit of my take on this Homan scandal. And then we'll talk about the Afghanistan base that the U.S. built in Bagram. So here we go with Tom Homan. In an undercover operation last year, the FBI recorded Tom Homan, now the White House border czar, accepting $50,000 in cash after indicating that he could help the agents who were posing as business executives win government contracts in a second Trump administration, according to multiple people familiar with the probe and internal documents reviewed by MSNBC. The FBI and the Justice Department planned to wait to see whether Homan would deliver on his alleged promise once he became the nation's top immigration official. But the case indefinitely stalled soon after Donald Trump became president again in January, according to 6 sources familiar with the matter. In recent weeks, Trump appointees officially closed the investigation after FBI Director Kash Patel requested a status update on the case, 2 of the people said. So, my question here is, if Joe Biden, President Biden's DOJ, conducted this operation and got Tom Homan to agree to this bribe and in exchange would favor them in winning government contracts in the next administration. Okay. So they were waiting for Tom Homan to actually provide any sort of help. Now that brings 2 issues to question. First, President Biden's FBI knew that the only way this conspiracy would come full circle would be if Tom Homan were ever in a position to make this deal happen. Like right now, he's in that position. And secondly, the DOJ and the FBI, President Biden's, had to have some undeserved level of confidence that Donald Trump would not get back in office. So whoever, which in case would have been Kamala Harris, got into office, this particular problem of Tom Homan being the border czar or being in a position to make these deals with these business executives would not rise, right? So if it was Kamala Harris, Tom Homan wouldn't have a place in the administration. And the only way that there would be a place for this contract, for this conspiracy, this contract, illegal contract, criminal contract to happen, that in exchange for $50,000, I will put you at the head of the table, head of the line for winning government contracts, was contingent upon a second Trump presidency. And there were business executives who made the bet that Donald Trump would win. Either they made that bet or they somehow knew that Donald Trump was going to win. And that's even more disturbing and going into a conspiracy rabbit hole where how would they know in September that Donald Trump was going to win in November, so much so that they gave Tom Homan $50,000. And that goes down a rabbit hole that I don't know where that goes. But just on its face, it makes you wonder, like, such a weird thing was happening, and the administration didn't take into consideration that, well, this can only happen if they know beforehand that Donald Trump is going to win. So, is there something wrong with how we're seeing the elections run? Mind you, I am not saying that the elections were irregular in any way. There's no evidence of that. No story has come out about that. But still, it brings to mind those questions for me. The second topic that I want to talk to you about is, remember how during Joe Biden's first 6 months, there was that withdrawal in August from Afghanistan that caused the deaths of 13 service members in Kabul because of a terror attack at the airport. And the way that whole managing and shutting down happened in a very hurried way. But do you know why it happened in a hurried way? Because Donald Trump placed a March 30th, 31st deadline on the U.S. troops leaving Afghanistan, and then the Biden administration had to negotiate with the Taliban, who are now in charge of Afghanistan, to get an extension on that until the end of August. And when he asked for another extension, he wasn't given that extension by the Taliban. And you know what that was based on? That was based on a negotiation that was negotiated by Mike Pompeo and Donald Trump's administration with the Taliban. So Donald Trump's administration makes a deal with the Taliban, not the democratically elected government of Afghanistan, sets thousands of Taliban prisoners free, and then gives the country to Joe Biden because he loses. Donald Trump loses by 7.5 million votes in 2020. So Biden inherits this mess of Donald Trump having negotiated with the Taliban, and then the Taliban toppling the democratic elected government of Afghanistan in less than 2 weeks. And then, essentially, the U.S. troops were chased out of Afghanistan. You know why I'm telling you this story right now? And why I'm reminding you that it was Donald Trump who signed the deal for the Taliban to take over Afghanistan and forced the Biden administration into a hurried withdrawal that caused the deaths of 13 service members? Well, Donald Trump wants to get Bagram military base back from Afghanistan after all of that. After giving Joe Biden the responsibility of withdrawing from all of Afghanistan without any negotiating room, by toppling over their democratic elected government, now in the 6th month of his second, this time his regime, Donald Trump wants Bagram base back, which is one of the biggest military bases the U.S. has ever built. And he says bad things are going to happen if Afghanistan and the Taliban don't give up Bagram to the people who built it. Which is another way of creating conflict in a place where he himself withdrew from. So while Donald Trump says that he wants to be the peace president, everything that he's doing, from what he's doing with Bagram and antagonizing Afghanistan, and then blowing up boats in, the Gulf of Mexico and in the Central Caribbean, alleging drug trafficking, and then you have DHS agents assaulting civilians and citizens and protesters in the sprawling ICE and DHS crackdown all around the country, whether or not the guard from that state helps you. So in those states, the governors need to take charge and send the state troopers so they can at least record for legal purposes what DHS agents and ICE agents are doing. Because other than that, it is the protesters' narratives and the government, federal regime's narrative. The state can intervene in that and play a witness, if nothing else, with their body cameras. And I implore those states to do that. But I'll stop because that's a whole different topic. I'll leave you with Bagram and Homan because I think that's enough. And I've provided you some of the references that you can go back and read. And please leave any comments that you have about it. If you have any information that I did not get correct, please let me know. Please provide a source that's a reliable source if you are giving me any conflicting information or even any additional information. With that said, thank you so much. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon.